The 18th of December, 1944. The USS Monterey tilts sharply, 70 degrees to one side. Planes break free on the hangar deck, slamming into walls, igniting in flames. 3 destroyers have already been swallowed by 6 0-foot waves. Today, 790 American sailors will perish, not from enemy attacks, but from an unpredictable force of nature. A massive typhoon has caught the US Third Fleet off guard. This shouldn't have happened. These were some of the strongest warships ever built, designed to endure any attack from the enemy. But Mother Nature had her own agenda. What follows will challenge everything you thought you knew about naval warfare. When a super typhoon collides with an aircraft carrier at sea, the consequences can surpass any battle. Modern carriers are marvels of technology, but the basic laws of physics haven't changed since that fateful day in 1944. So, what really unfolds when nature's full fury strikes these floating cities? Let's dive in. To grasp what happens when a super typhoon hits a carrier, we first need to define the storm itself. A super typhoon is the Pacific's version of a major hurricane, but calling it a storm is an understatement. These are Category 4 or 5 tropical cyclones, with sustained winds exceeding 150 miles per hour. They churn waves 50 to 60 feet high. Torrential rain reduces visibility to just a few feet, and storm surges can lift sea levels 20 feet or more. Aircraft carriers may seem invincible. Nimitz-class carriers, the backbone of US naval power, stretch over 1,000 feet and weigh more than 100,000 tons fully loaded. Nuclear reactors propel them at speeds over 30 knots. They carry 5,000 sailors and Marines, along with 64 combat aircraft. These aren't just ships, they're mobile air bases loaded with cutting-edge technology. But here's the catch. Size and power don't make you immune to nature. Sometimes, they even work against you. Let's return to Typhoon Cobra, which struck Admiral Halsey's Third Fleet in 1944. This was no ordinary fleet. Task Force 38 had 7 fleet carriers, 6 light carriers, 8 battleships, 15 cruisers, and around 50 destroyers. They'd just completed 3 days of intense raids on Japanese airfields in the Philippines. The fleet needed fuel, especially the destroyers, which were dangerously low. If you've ever witnessed extreme seas, or know someone in the Navy who has, share your experience in the comments below, we'd love to hear it. By 9 a.m., on December 18, the storm had engulfed the fleet. On the USS Monterey, aircraft that should have been secured broke free on the hangar deck. The crew spent the next hour fighting fires, while the ship rolled violently, making walking nearly impossible. 3 sailors died, 18 aircraft were destroyed, and another 16 were damaged beyond repair. Among those battling flames was a young officer named Gerald Ford, the future 38th President of the United States. Ford later recalled almost being swept overboard as planes collided like giant pinballs. The destroyers, USS Hull, USS Spence, and USS Monaghan, simply vanished. The Spence went down with 317 sailors. Only 23 survived. The Monaghan took 256 lives, with just 6 making it out. Before we explore how modern carriers fare in these conditions, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing. It costs nothing, but helps us continue bringing you stories like this. Thank you. Now, you might think that was 1,944 modern carriers must be safer. And you're partly correct, but you're also underestimating nature. Today's carriers are engineering marvels. Nimitz and Ford-class ships are designed for stability. Their center of buoyancy sits higher than their center of gravity, creating a righting moment. The more the ship tilts, the stronger the force pushing it upright. They feature wide hulls, advanced ballast systems, and watertight compartments that can be sealed independently. Flooding in one section won't sink the entire vessel. They also have something World War II ships lacked: sophisticated weather tracking. Modern carriers access satellite imagery, computer models, and real-time data from global weather stations. The US Navy's Joint Typhoon Warning Center, monitors every Pacific and Indian Ocean cyclone. Carriers can detect storms days in advance and plot courses to avoid them entirely. But even with this technology, carriers aren't invulnerable. Sometimes avoidance isn't an option. In 1989, USS Carl Vinson was en route to Busan, South Korea, when a super typhoon struck. The captain described maneuvering to minimize impact, only to get trapped in the storm's grip. For what felt like an eternity, the massive carrier was at the mercy of the ocean. They survived, but it was, in his words, harrowing. In May 2023, Super Typhoon Mawar struck Guam with 150 miles per hour winds, one of the strongest in 2 decades. USS Nimitz and its strike group were operating south of Japan. The Navy ordered the Nimitz and escorts to assist with disaster relief, but first moved them to open sea for safety, a standard precaution. It may seem counterintuitive, but at port, ships risk colliding with each other or being pushed onto rocks. Out in deep water, they can maneuver, adjust speed, and ride the storm more safely. But what happens when avoidance is impossible? When a carrier faces the worst of a super typhoon, the flight deck becomes unusable. Aircraft can't launch or land when the ship rolls 20, 30, or 40 degrees. Even secured planes can break free. During Typhoon Cobra, 7 planes on USS Cowpens were washed overboard. USS Kit Kun Bay rolled 39 degrees and had to jettison 3 aircraft to lighten the load. Across the fleet, 146 aircraft were lost not in combat, but to the storm. Modern carriers secure planes below deck in hangars. Everything on the flight deck, from chains to tractors, is either lashed down or moved inside. The ship enters a high readiness state, essentially becoming a steel fortress. Hatches are sealed, ventilation adjusted, watertight doors locked tight. Yet, even with precautions, damage can occur. Waves can sweep over the flight deck, antennas can tear off, radar systems can fail. Anything unsecured becomes a deadly projectile. The deck itself can buckle under immense force. Below deck, the hangar is a different hazard. Aircraft breaking free become battering rams. Jets, weighing 12,000 to 24,000 pounds empty and far more loaded, can rip through the hangar, smashing into walls, equipment, and each other. Fuel tanks rupture, hydraulic lines burst, electrical sparks ignite fires. On USS Monterey, the flames forced evacuation from the boiler rooms. The ship survived, but barely, requiring months of repairs. The human element adds another layer of danger. Imagine being inside a ship rolling 30, 40, 50 degrees. Unsecured objects fly through compartments. Sailors are thrown, sustaining broken bones, concussions, cuts. Medical teams treat casualties while everything pitches violently. Sleeping is nearly impossible. Eating is a challenge. Moving around the ship becomes a calculated risk. Sailors time their movements, grab handrails, wait for the deck to stabilize. Seasickness hits even the most experienced. And storms like this last for 12, 18, even 24 hours. The psychological strain is immense. These sailors remember history Typhoon Cobra. They know even the most powerful vessels can be overwhelmed. Yet they remain at their stations, maintaining reactors, fighting fires, keeping the ship operational. This is true professionalism. This is the US Navy. After the storm passes, the work continues. Teams inspect the ship for structural damage, check watertight integrity, inventory lost equipment, and perform repairs at sea while noting what requires dockyard attention. Damaged aircraft are assessed, communication systems restored, flight decks repaired to resume operations. Often, missions involve helping others. After Super Typhoon Mawar in 2023, USS Nimitz became a critical relief asset, serving as a communications hub and deploying helicopters to deliver supplies to isolated areas. But can a modern carrier actually sink from a typhoon? Probably not, but not impossible. Modern carriers are stable. The only US carrier ever lost, USS Hornet in 1942, succumbed to combat damage, not weather. Typhoons, hurricanes, and severe storms have battered carriers for decades, but none have been lost solely to storms. Yet, worst-case scenarios exist. If a ship loses power or steering in a Category 5 storm, it becomes a 100,000-ton drifting vessel. USS Monterey nearly reached this point in 1944. If the crew hadn't regained control, history would tell a very different story. The main threats aren't sinking, they're fires, explosions, structural damage, loss of capability, injuries, and fatalities. A carrier damaged by a storm may still float, but if it loses half its aircraft, suffers fires, and sustains dozens of injuries, it's not fully operational. Avoidance remains the first defense. Advanced weather tracking reduces the risk of encountering a typhoon, but sometimes storms change course or operations prevent retreat. Here, crew skill is vital. Naval officers and sailors are highly trained in ship handling, emergency response, and reading the sea. They know how to position the ship, adjust speed, and maintain safety while completing missions. The crew is well trained, disciplined, and ready. Over 70 years of supercarrier operations from USS Forrestal in 1955 to USS Gerald R. Ford, no carrier has been lost to weather. This is engineering, preparation, training, and determination. But the threat is real. Climate change intensifies super typhoons, producing faster, stronger, and longer-lasting storms. The Navy adapts, improving hull designs, reinforcements, and storm response protocols. Yet physics can't be ignored. A 60-foot wave carries immense energy. Winds at 150 miles per hour exert massive force. The ocean is more powerful than anything humans have built. When a super typhoon strikes a US aircraft carrier, the crew secures the ship, takes stations, and the captain makes critical decisions on heading, speed, and timing. They endure hours or days of extreme conditions, fighting fires, making repairs, and relying on training, technology, and each other. Most carriers survive, battered, but operational. This is a testament to American engineering and the dedication of sailors. These ships embody decades of technological advancement, billions in investment, and generations of naval expertise, but above all, they reflect human courage and professionalism. Seeing a carrier return safely after a super typhoon is witnessing triumph over nature, a combination of decisions made under extreme pressure, skill, and determination. Next time you hear of a Pacific typhoon, think of the carrier strike groups at sea, the sailors maintaining watch, engineers running reactors, and damage control teams on alert. They perform one of the toughest jobs on Earth, and they do it with excellence. If you found this video insightful, please like and subscribe for more stories about our military and the extraordinary people who serve.